Thank you so much. Yeah, great to have Jensen aboard, and of course also an ambassador for Rolex, I may add, and of course Rolex now 24 years as part of this event, so we thank them for their support as we do Haggerty. As you can see, the track is calling, and it is. We're calling the track. And it's a beautiful day here in August for the Monterey reunion. An event, by the way, which lasts some 2 weeks or 10 days in full. But once you've done it all and gone home, it's about 2 weeks of your time. So there's a lot of people who have been here right from the get-go. I'm just looking out the commentary window now to see who's revving up and making some noise. But plenty of crowd down there enjoying the sunshine. And there's a good breeze out there too. So we've got some nice California sunshine and a little breeze to keep us cool as we get ready for our Group 9 coverage. And this is Parnelli Jones. And, well, I don't think anybody can miss the fact that we have just lost Parnelli Jones. And it's therefore somewhat, well, it's more than appropriate that we honor him today. He died June 4th in California at his home. Not originally from California, but grew up as a kid from 7 years of age, and of course his history with this location and to a certain extent what was on track now. If you ask Parnelli Jones, he'll tell you that his time in Trans Am was some of his most competitive, up against the likes of his good mate George Foreman and so many others. And we are blessed today to celebrate once again the Trans Am Trophy, 66 to 72. That was the heyday. I currently cover modern day Trans Am. I'll be at Watkins Glen next weekend with TA2 and TA. And so I feel very privileged to get to talk a little bit about the history of this event. And a lot of people talk to the 1970 first race here at Laguna Seca to kind of be the epitome of the height of the love and interest in Trans Am racing. The factories, race on Sunday, buy on Monday was absolutely the vogue in terms of what these cars were all about. Production cars, sedans, based on the production cars, then stripped to within an inch of their life and even dipped in acid, poor things, to make them go even lighter and faster. So they tried to try everything, the rules. And here is one classic that you're looking at now. Ken Epsman, who's been out in action already this weekend, but in that 1972 AMC Javelin. Javelin didn't quite have the success that the Fords and the Camaros had, but when it was in its heyday, Ken Epsman has been wheeling that historic car for quite some time now, and he loves his historic racing. And again, another full field with some quite big luminary names. You might have heard of John Hildebrand, yes, father of Scott Joy, son of Mike Joy. Mike Joy's out there as well. Mike Joy in the number 4. He came in earlier this weekend to give us some insight into some of the IMSA cars, but Mike Joy in the 1970 Camaro Z28. And who else should we mention? Nick DeVitis in his 1968 Ford Mustang, the number 28, another one to watch out for. Just going out of the last corner, that's the 64 of Chad Renal in the 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. And a full field of 30 cars here, just as it was in the day. Now, I read up on the 1970 race, and I think there was something like 70,000 fans here to watch these guys put these cars through their paces in the day, in period as we speak. And all the colors, all the paint schemes, and the specs are as they were. And we really have some priceless cars out here. Jeffrey O'Neill in a 1969 Ford Boss 302 Mustang. And it was a Ford factory-backed race car built by Carcraft. First raced in 1969 at Daytona and driven by Parnelli Jones. And then raced by George Foreman. So it all fits in with what I've been saying earlier. It won at Bridgehampton in 1969, beating Mark Donoghue, Jerry Titus, and Peter Revson. And again, that was the beauty of this championship, which was stock, near as stock production cars, but it also attracted some of the great names like Peter Revson. Obviously, there's the homegrown Parnelli Joneses, Mark Donohues, and so on. And later down the road, Dorsey Schroeder right here as a race official this weekend. Had a great period. Wally Dollenbach, who again we lost recently. Wally Dollenbach Jr. is still racing in Trans Am occasionally, not always, but races in the Masters category. And it's been a happy hunting ground for the big families of racing in the States. Penske, of course, had his team. This is where he made his name in some ways before he became known as the Indy Impresario. Now the owner of both the Speedway at Indianapolis and, of course, the IndyCar Championship. But Roger Penske kind of cut his teeth here, like so many more. Bud Moore came out of NASCAR and put together a team, and he too was devastating once they got going. So, yeah, they talk about the Pony Wars, but it was real, and it was a special time, this period from 67, 68 to 72. It carried on, and in fact, Trans Am remains the longest going road racing series in America. It started in 66, and it still keeps to its true sort of spirit in TA today, because production cars still race in that series as well as the tubular frame 850 horsepower beasts. Well, as it echoed through the hills here in Monterey in 1970, it's doing it again in 2024. And of course, many of these cars will have been at the first event in 74. But then they were current cars, of course, or just out of racing. But great to see them in action again today. Patrick Byrne leading the way in the Mustang Boss 302 from 1969. Joshua Fiber just behind him. Bill Ockerland, a regular racer in this championship, in third place in that 1970. There he is. 1970 Ford Mustang. And again, driven to the 1970 championship. So that's the championship winning car of Parnelli Jones from 1970 in third place at the moment. Ken Epsman, look at that number 2 car I was talking about earlier, just behind him. Then Chad Renault in 5th place. Ken Adams in 6th. Hans Hugenholtz in 7th. Rick Jeffrey in 8th. Kevin Sittner, in 9th. And Jeffrey O'Neill, who I mentioned earlier, in 10th position. Back in the day, those woods would have been lined with fans, and so were the hilltops. Not so many RVs back then, but people would come from Los Angeles, from San Francisco and San Jose, and further afield to come and watch these guys race. So Bill Ockerland, it looks like, up to 2nd place. Ooh, a little sideways action there. Getting down these V8 power units. Muscle car racing at its finest, folks. And the 2 cars with the number 2. That's Ken Epsman and Patrick Byrne side by side for a moment going into Andretti. Epsman takes the inside line and takes the advantage for now. And have a look on the internet, because this Trans Am Historic Series races at many events throughout the US throughout the year at historic racing, but this is very much its home, and so much was on the West Coast, and still now in modern day Trans Am, the West Coast Championship, without doubt one of the strongest breeding grounds for the national championship. Now with the Pro-Am series as well in Trans Am current day, there's more opportunity for youngsters to come through. And it's interesting, back in the heyday, of course, the likes of Vic Elford and Mark Donohue and many others, Parnelli just one of many at the time, all came here, but they were no names. And current Trans Am is now breeding So many stars for the future of both IMSA and NASCAR. And we see a lot of factory drivers, junior factory drivers for Toyota or Chevrolet, get their opportunity to race in current Trans Am. And now they're starting to fill the truck scene and Xfinity and, of course, the Cup Series. And we've even got the likes of Justin Marks, who runs the Trackhouse team in NASCAR and has his own MotoGP team. But he is a regular player in Trans Am current day. So the crossover still remains, as it has done for many years. And Bill Auckland now taking the lead here in our Group 9 coverage. Just circulated. Well, he's not as fast actually as Kem Epsman, who's moved up to 7. There's Peter Kloot in the number 63. First view of that properly. Peter Kloot in the 67. Notchback, just one of 2 notchbacks, I think, in the race. Actually, no, just 1 notchback. So, a lone notchback of that day, you see it, the number 63. Auckland with the lead, but only just. It's a pretty tight race, this one. Keep an eye on Mike Joy, see how he's getting on. He laughed and said he taught his son too well because his son's beating him now and he's off into the distance, but that can only make Mike prouder. I asked him if he taught him to drive or let others do that. He said, no. I let proper instructors show him what to do. I said, oh, fair enough. We've got one Ford Falcon out there from 1964. That's Jim Beattie. That notchback that we saw a moment ago, Fred Sutherland purchased from Shelby American in August 1967. And it raced at Riverside. Grand Prix there in 67. Daytona to 2nd place. Raced at Brainerd in 69. And then was sold to Sam Miller in late 69. And raced in regional and nationals. And then sold to Norman Frame in early 1974. Go back to number 2. Patrick Byrne. And this car you were seeing now, Patrick Byrne, that's 69 Shelby. First ever factory Trans Am Boss 302 Mustang that was prepared by Carcraft, then Shelby Racing. God, this is really close. This is great. Joshua Fiber now coming into the scene in that all blue number 19. There's nothing between the top men here. Look at that. Top 10, really. Anybody could have it. We've also got a Shelby Group 2 Trans Am 1967. Raced at Tremblay. 4-hour Trans Am sedans. Remember, back then, they were long races too. So that was another factor. I would have thought it would be exhausting to race in a 4-hour Trans Am race, but they did. Riverside, 1967, that car took part. And also Las Vegas in the Stardust Trans Am race. And, each and every one of these cars with a storied history. Well, now that everybody's kind of got their feet under the table, so to speak, tyres up to temperature, perfect conditions, starting to put in fastest laps. Certainly 3 through, 10, all putting in their fastest laps of the race so far. And by my calculations, a 1:45.6 from Joshua Ferber in 3rd place. Whoa, and high and wide and under the Rolex bridge, creating a throw-up of dust there, just coming out of 3. But he gets it back into place and back on the asphalt. He's kind of out of sync now. 3 wide coming into 5. That's the 45 of Ken Adams. That car competed on the East Coast in SCCA Trans Am events as an independent entry with Richard Renfenlow and Paul Petty. Ken Adams at the wheel. It's a 1969 Ford Boss 302, that number 45. There you go. Just coming to the shot now. Thank you, Lake. He knows what I'm talking about. He follows me. Yeah, good shout out to our cameraman, our drone, doing a great job this weekend, keeping up with what is 13 different categories of cars. So a lot of racing over a day. Not easy. So hats off to them. But they're giving us a fantastic insight into these cars and showing us what they do here at the newly paved Laguna Seca. Whoa! Ken getting nice and squiggly and squirrely out of the last corner here. Getting that power down. Heading over the crest and into Andretti. Interestingly enough, I'm looking down the list and I'm presuming that my good mate, Thomas Merrill, the 2022 Trans Am champion from Salinas, California, i.e. just across the way. His father works here at the circuit. Brother Jonathan here this weekend driving a tractor, but they are in the farming business, so that's okay. But Thomas still right at the top of his game in Trans Am. He'll be at Watkins Glen next week, but great to have him on board and experiencing what it's like to be in one of these historic Trans Am cars, but taking it steady, I may add. Currently in 14th position. I'd hope Chris Dyson might also be here, our current TA champion. His father, Rob Dyson, of course, is here. So it's truly a family affair, this motor racing scene. Up the Ray Hall straight they go. What a shot that is. Just squint your eyes, make it black and white, and you were there in 1970. No, you don't have to make it black and white. Now that Patrick Byrne car, which is a father and son, Bill and Patrick Byrne owned car, is a very rare Shelby Group 2 Mustang, and there's only 26 built by Carroll Shelby's race shop, then located across from the LAX airport in Los Angeles. The idea was to build a special car that could be purchased and immediately entered either into Trans Am or FIA Group 2 in Europe. And it was estimated that only 9 of these cars remain, and only 3 or 4 are active in current vintage racing. So that's how rare some of these cars are. That's the number 15 out there in the blue and yellow as we continue to look at Ken Adams in that 69 Boss. And the other Patrick Byrne car currently in 4th position, the number 2. There's another Boss 302 from 69. And was the first prototype for the Boss 302 that Ford developed for the 1969 Trans Am series. The car preceded the Bud Moore and other famous Boss cars that would soon follow. So effectively the original before Bud Moore and several others made the Boss 302 so popular and so dominating. The car was custom built by Car Craft, which was then Ford Motor Raceworks, and further developed back in Michigan by Ford in their proving grounds. Now we got back to the leader as it looks as though Ken Adams has hit the front. Or Bill Auckland, excuse me, has got into the front ahead of Adams. Somebody else has gone off into the dirt, but has got it back. Nobody else out there, but it back to the leader, Bill Auckland, as he comes down through 10 and into 11. Adams posted the fastest lap of the race so far. Excuse me, Bill Auckland now just doing that as he crosses the line, a 1:44.8. So as they get him dialed in, we're getting some really good lap times. Peter Kloot, though, just did a 1:43.9. Josh Fibert, so they're all going up. They're all getting into the 1:43s now as they settle down. Raynol in the 64, currently in 3rd. Byrne drops to 4th. Fiber 5th now. Kloot 6th. Jeffrey O'Neill now up to 7th place. Epsman's dropped down to 8th. Sittner in 9th. And Rick Jeffrey, rounding out the top 10. been mentioning Patrick Byrne. Well, he's a skilled GT and prototype championship driver who amassed 40 podium finishes in his career. He was a double SCCA regional champion and an Asian Le Mans Series champion. Reynolds now picking up the front. So it's all changed at the front. Everybody's having a chance to lead, and I think the traffic now they're catching up with is also playing a part in the change at the front, but we'll take it. We love it. Coming into Rainey now. 2 more cars ahead of the faster cars. Now, how are they going to dispense with them? They're going wide and high, but now the others are catching up as they have to slow to kind of tiptoe past, and that's brought the field together again. They get past the number 7. Of Tony Hart. Look at this. It's a wonderful sand. And back to the lead now goes Chad Renault. Bill Auckland's not giving up too easily, and Ken Adams is right there waiting to pounce, as is Byrne. So we've got an almighty battle all the way to 6th place here at the moment, under the Firestone Bridge and into the right-hander. Effectively, we were split into 2 major groups now. The leaders you're watching now and the chasing group. Side by side now into the left-hander, and Auckland back into the lead. In the Mustang. Ford Mustang, of course, effectively born out of competition against Chevrolet. They wanted a sports car that could rival what Corvette were doing. They wanted something that was affordable but sporty and would attract the buyers of regular cars and show them on the track, show them how they could perform, and give the dealers in each of the dealerships a chance to effectively say, yeah, you know, we won on Sunday in the hands of X, Y, and Z, and now you need to be driving this car because it's the car you need. White flag out then for our Group 9. Remember, honouring Parnelli Jones, one of the greats. And Parnelli, his accomplishments in IndyCar, Trans Am, off-road racing. I hadn't realised just how much off-road racing he'd done, including racing Broncos across the desert. But he truly was one of the great pioneers and greats of racing here. And so, no question about it, we honour Parnelli. And sadly, we lost him earlier this year. But to say he had a good run is an understatement. Auckland back into the lead on this last lap. It's between the top 4 now. Anybody can take it. Adams in the run. Reynolds and Byrne. Patrick Byrne in the 2. The 45 is Ken Adams. He's just dropped off to 3rd now, having led. Auckland still there. I spoke to Bill Auckland earlier in the weekend. He has been a part of this event for many years as well. Coming up to the corkscrew for the final time. Here's a look at it in its full glory. And drop down you go. Lovely. Sweeping into the long left-hander that is named after Wayne Rainey, the 3-time motorcycle GP champion. And then into 10 for the last time. Sorting themselves out. Side-by-side action. A challenge for the podium is there. Through goes the number 2. Epsman looking for a decent result, but it's going to be Bill Auckland as they head to the line. It's going to be a very close finish between these two, and it is so close, but Auckland takes it just by a smidge. Less than a second, 0.99 in fact. What a great performance, and what a great show to watch. harping back to the classic days of 1970, 71, 72 here at Laguna Seca. If that doesn't give you historic racing, nothing will. And that is Bill Auckland, the winner of the Parnelli Jones Trans Am Trophy here for 1966 to 1972 cars in Trans Am. So as they take their slow down lap, we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll have more action with plenty more groups coming your way here from the reunion here in Monterey.